Hello and welcome to the Capitol Report on NTD Television. I'm Steve Lance. Reactions are pouring in after Nancy Pelosi's husband Paul was attacked this morning. NTD's Iris Tao has more on the latest developments.
More details are emerging after House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, was attacked at the couple's San Francisco home early Friday morning. The Associated Press reports that Paul Pelosi was struck several times in the head and suffered blunt force injuries. But Nancy Pelosi's office says he is expected to make a full recovery. And more on the attack itself. Multiple outlets are now reporting that the intruder shouted, "Where is Nancy?" before attacking the lawmaker's husband. The House Speaker was here in D.C., not at home in San Francisco at the time. The local police department gave us more details on Friday afternoon.
At approximately 2:27 this morning, San Francisco police officers were dispatched to the residence of Speaker Nancy Pelosi regarding an A-priority well-being check. Our officers observed Ms. Pelosi and the suspect both holding a hammer. The suspect pulled the hammer away from Ms. Pelosi and violently assaulted him with it.
The police identified the suspect as 43-year-old David DePape of California, adding that he'll face charges of attempted homicide and assault with a deadly weapon, among others. But the reason for the attack is still unclear.
The motive for this attack is still being determined.
And reactions are pouring in from both sides of the aisle. The White House says President Biden has spoken to Nancy Pelosi this morning, and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer called the attack a dastardly act. Meanwhile, Republican Senator Ted Cruz tweeted, quote, "We can have our political differences, but violence is always wrong." And Steve Scalise, the House Republican whip who was himself shot in 2017 at a congressional baseball practice, has also joined in condemning the attack, saying violence has no place in this country. And now Capitol Police are considering stepping up protection of lawmakers following the latest attack. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Iris Tao, NTD News.
President Biden was in New York yesterday campaigning for Democrat Governor Kathy Hochul. To assess the contents of his speech ahead of the midterms, we're happy to have on Wisconsin Congressman Tom Tiffany. Congressman Tom Tiffany, thank you so much for joining us.
It's good to join you on this Friday, Steve.
Congressman, President Biden yesterday contrasted his plan for the economy with Republicans, saying that the Republicans' plan will further boost inflation. How will the Republicans' plan differ from the Democrats?
You know, the message that I've been delivering to voters, Steve, is I think there's three big things that we can do, and it's not just three, but there's three I always mention. Number one, let's pass a balanced budget. A group I belong to, the Republican Study Committee, we're the only ones that put on paper this session a balanced budget that would get to balance in 7 years. Second of all, let's reward work rather than welfare. And the third thing, let's get back to energy independence, something clearly President Biden does not want to do, but is also very obvious to the American people needs to be done if we're going to get the economy back on track and wring inflation out of our economy.
Congressman, I'm going to ask you about energy in just a moment, but first I want you to react to something President Biden said in that same speech yesterday, where he singled out Wisconsin along with a few other states. I'd like to get your reaction to this.
The previous president made a string of broken promises in places like Wisconsin, Indiana, Ohio, where promised investments in jobs and manufacturing never materialized, but layoffs and shuttered factories did materialize.
Congressman, your reaction?
We had the strongest economy we'd had in a long time, especially for working class people and lower income people during the previous administration. President Biden is once again just spreading misinformation, just spewing stuff, hoping the American people aren't paying attention. They're going to be sorely disappointed come November 8th because the American people know what's gone on. They know what's happened since January 20th of 2021 with the record inflation that's driven up the cost of living for all Americans, and the American people see through this.
Congressman, you have expressed concern about President Biden asking the Saudis to postpone cutting back oil production. What has you most concerned, and why do you think we've not heard more from the media in terms of questioning the motive?
Yeah, well, we actually heard a little bit from the Inside the Beltway media this week. But for those not familiar, Steve, 2 weeks ago, I called for an investigation and I sent a letter to Speaker Pelosi. Let's have a committee review why the administration was asking the Saudis to put off their announcement of production cuts for a month, which would have been after the election. Have not heard from Speaker Pelosi yet. Sent a follow-up letter now in the last 24 hours saying there's additional information coming out, including from the New York Times, that shows the Biden administration was attempting to get the Saudis to up oil production way back last spring. And as I've described it, I believe the Biden administration was doing this as an in-kind contribution. And it's obvious what the Biden administration believes in. They care about their own political hides rather than American lives when it comes to this whole issue of energy. Kick the decision off until after the election when they can continue to put their thumb on reduced production of American energy.
Congressman, back to foreign policy. What will your biggest priorities be when it comes to dealing with China, the CCP, in the next Congress?
So first of all, we should end the one China policy. There is no such thing as one China, and we need to be firm with the Communist Party, especially with President Xi, who has, it appears, consolidated his power. We have to be very firm with them that you need to leave Taiwan alone, and Taiwan is a separate country. The other thing that we should do, and there's bipartisan support for this, is to end most favored nation status, where we just give the administration the ability to continue to do that. We need to bring that back and have a vote every year in Congress whether China should have most favored nation status. They need to live up to the goal that most of us have across the world, and that is for countries to treat each other with respect. China is clearly not doing that with Taiwan and other countries. Let's bring back most favored nation status on an annual basis, and hopefully that'll be incentive for the communist Chinese to become better actors rather than stealing our intellectual property, threatening their neighbors, and enslaving their ethnic minorities in Western China.
Congressman Tom Tiffany, thank you so much.
It's always good to be with you, Steve.
The Senate released a new report Thursday on the origins of the CCP virus. It says there's considerable evidence pointing to the Wuhan Institute of Virology in China. The report says substantial evidence suggests that the COVID-19 pandemic was the result of a research-related incident associated with a laboratory in Wuhan, China. The report goes on to say that this explanation is consistent with how the virus spread during the pandemic's early stages. It says a natural origin does remain possible, but that the original animal host has not yet been identified. Senate committee staff produced the report under the direction of Republican Senator Richard Burr. They spent 15 months poring over hundreds of scientific studies and interviewed dozens of experts. Former President Donald Trump is reacting to Elon Musk's deal with Twitter. He praises Musk's purchase of the social media platform. Trump posted on Truth Social, quote, "I'm very happy that Twitter is now in sane hands." He adds Twitter must now work hard to rid itself of all of the bots and fake accounts that have hurt it so badly. It will be much smaller, but better. But Trump did not say if he would join Twitter again if Musk lifts the ban on his account. The social media platform banned Trump's account in January of 2021 over his comments on the January 6th Capitol breach. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is commenting on several toss-up races for the U.S. Senate. He got caught on a hot mic Thursday while speaking to President Biden.
It's hard to believe that they will go for the
Schumer was commenting on the race between Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock and his Republican challenger Herschel Walker. Schumer said,
that seat, we're in danger of that seat.
According to Georgia's Secretary of State, voters there have been breaking turnout records into week 2 of early voting. Schumer also commented on the debate in Pennsylvania between Democrat John Fetterman and Republican Mehmet Oz. Schumer then said his party appears to be picking up steam in Nevada.
Looks like the debate didn't hurt us too much in Pennsylvania as of today, so that's good.
The three races are all expected to be highly contested in the midterms, and they could decide the control of the Senate. Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.